Friends, today we are going to start our second lecture in respect of the topic applicability of the IPC, which is provided in section 2, 3 and 4 of the IPC. In fact, in other words, that can be said as intra-territorial and extraterritorial operation or applicability of the penal code. This particular section 2, 3 and 4, these sections, they are of great importance in fact. Let us start with an example. A commits a murder in a particular city in India. He is arrested by police. Now A wants to say that no law is applicable to me, IPC is not applicable to me because I was not a consenting party and I am not knowing the provisions of law, etc. etc. These are the excuses which have been put forth by Mr. A. Now this is a very great question, in fact, which occurred in my mind also when I was a student in LLB, that the laws are not enacted, they are not brought into force with the consent of the people of India or the person of India, person from India as such. And therefore, whether the person can say that it is not binding on me, I was not a party to this particular law. And that question may be answered on the basis of this section 2 of the penal code. Section 2 provides for intra-territorial operation or applicability of Indian penal code, while section 3 and 4, they provide for the extraterritorial operation of the Indian penal code. Now friends, let me tell you that whenever there comes any question in respect of a particular section, absolutely there is no harm in reading the wordings used in that particular section, because here bear in mind that whenever we read a particular section from any law, you will find whatever the wordings are used, those wordings may be the essential ingredients of that particular section, and therefore unless and until you are well aware of those ingredients, you may not be in a position to interpret the particular section in a proper way. As far as section 2 is concerned, let us have a look to the wordings of this particular section. Section 2 provides for offences committed within India. Let us have a look to the wordings. Every person shall be liable to punishment under this code and not otherwise for every act or omission contrary to the provisions thereof, that is the IPC, of which he shall be guilty within India. Now here we should consider the wordings used here. The section starts with the words any person. So friends, the words any person means to say the person may be Indian or the person may be a foreigner. If such person commits an offence within India and that is made punishable under the penal code, the provisions of penal code will be applicable to him. So here, needless to say, in spite of the nationality, the person who commits an offence, that person will be tried under the provisions of Indian Penal Code. The person who is a foreigner he commits an offense provided under IPC. Now he wants to say that I am a foreigner, therefore IPC is not applicable to me. Secondly, he wants to say that this is an offense, I was not knowing about it, and therefore this law is not binding upon me. Now friends, here he is absolutely not at liberty to say like this. Though he is a foreigner, he will be dealt with as per the provisions of penal code, provided such type of act is defined as an offense under the Indian Penal Code. Secondly, he said that I was not knowing that this act amounts to an offense. That is also not proper, because here ignorance of law is no excuse. That is the principle applied in India, and no person can be permitted to say that he was not aware of the provisions of law. So therefore friends, when an Indian person or a foreigner commits any kind of offense provided under IPC, he will be dealt with, he will be prosecuted under the provisions of Indian Penal Code. Now here we are speaking about an offense. Again question comes as to what do you mean by offense? While discussing various sorts of general explanations under the Indian Penal Code, right from section 6 to 52 onwards, you will find that the terms used in IPC are well defined in IPC, and in one of the sections in IPC you will find that the term offense is also described and defined. Now friends, here at this juncture it will be sufficient to say an offense means an act which is made punishable under IPC, an act which is prohibited under IPC, that act can be called as an offense. So here offense means any act or omission made punishable under IPC. Now here friends, at this juncture you should bear in mind, act includes omission. When an act is made punishable, omission to do that act is also made punishable. Act is a positive action of a person, while omission is not doing something which the person is under obligation to do. So here friends, this is all about section 2 of the Penal Code, and in nutshell it can be said that this section provides for the intra-territorial operation of the Indian Penal Code. Whenever an offense is committed within the territory of India by any person, that person can be prosecuted for the act committed by him as per the provisions of Indian Penal Code. Now next part of our discussion today is section 2, as just now we have seen. But you will find, though this section is silent about any sorts of exceptions here, there are certain exceptions because of the position the persons acquire, because of the office they are holding as such. Because of these privileges, certain personalities, certain dignitaries, they are exempted from the operation of penal code. Just now I told you that these exceptions are not provided in IPC, but they are provided elsewhere. Number one is the President and the governors of the state. Article 361 of the Indian Constitution you will find, this article provides for the privileges to the President and the governors of the state. Let us have a look to the wordings used in Article 361 of the Indian Penal Code. Article 361 of the Indian Constitution provides for privileges, and it is laid down that no criminal proceedings shall be instituted or continued against the President or the governors of the state, nor any sort of process shall be issued against them for the acts alleged to have been committed by them during the terms of their office, and therefore this is exception number 1. The president and the governors of the state, they are exempted from the operation of penal code. Next comes number 2, foreign sovereigns. They are also exempted. Number 3, foreign states. Number 4, ambassadors and diplomatic agents. Next is warships in foreign ports when they are carrying men of war of a state in foreign ports. They are also exempted from the operation of penal code. Next is aligned enemies, foreign army, armed forces of foreign army, etc. So friends, these are some of the important exceptions to section 2 of the Indian Penal Code. All these persons, they are exempted from the operation of the penal code. One more topic I would like to discuss here at this juncture as far as section 2 is concerned: maritime belt or maritime territory as such. Here we have seen that when an offence is committed within the territory of India, the provisions of section 2 will be made applicable. Now another question comes: what is the territory? Whether that only includes the boundary lines of the particular state, particular country. Territorial does not only extends to the compass of the land belonging to the state, but it also includes some portion of sea so far as the cannon shot will reach, and that is known as 12 nautical miles cannon shot. The area covered by this particular shot, up to that extent, this will be the jurisdiction of the state. So here the jurisdiction not only extends to the land, but it also extends to some portion of the sea up to certain extent. Now friends, here this is all about the territorial operation, intra-territorial operation of the penal code. The second part of today's discussion is extraterritorial operation of IPC, and that is provided for in section 3 and 4. Now let us have a look to the wordings used in section 3. As far as section 3 is concerned, it is provided punishment of offences committed beyond India, which by law may be tried within India. So friends, here bear in mind that if a person who is amenable to Indian laws commits an offence in foreign countries, and in that country the particular act is not made punishable, but that is made punishable in IPC in India, in this kind of peculiar circumstances, you will find the person who has committed this particular offence outside India, that is beyond the territory of India, that person can be prosecuted in India by the Indian courts as per the provisions of Indian Penal Code. In short friends, here the penal code applies to the acts committed outside India by the person who at the time of committing the said act was amenable to the Indian courts, and the act committed by him amounts to an offence as per the provisions of IPC. So these are the conditions which are applicable when we are going to apply the provisions of section 3 of the Indian Penal Code. Now for example, an Indian person commits a particular act, say in England, and the law of the land in England does not provide for an offence to such type of act. That act does not amount to an offence in England, but that person is amenable to Indian courts and IPC punish such type of act. In that case, this kind of act committed by him will be prosecuted, and the person will be prosecuted in India for the purpose of committing the act amounting to an offence. Now friends, here let us have a look to the provisions of section 4 of the IPC, which is also in respect of the extraterritorial operation of IPC. I would like to read the headings as such: extension of code to extraterritorial offences. The provisions of IPC apply also to an offence committed by, firstly, any citizen of India in any place without and beyond India, and secondly, by any person on any ship or aircraft which is registered in India. So friends, here in first part, an Indian citizen commits an offence outside India anywhere in the world, that person can be dealt with by the provisions of penal code. And secondly, if the offence is committed by any person on any ship or aircraft flying Indian flag, that is, in other words, registered in India, in that case also, that person, though he is not an Indian person, he is a foreigner, that person can be dealt with as per the provisions of Indian Penal Code. Now here friends, though the person has committed an offence outside India, and if that person is found in India, there may be two contingencies in respect of this particular fact. Number one is the person found may be given up to the country in which that person has committed an offence, or secondly, that person may be tried by the Indian courts for the offence committed by him. Now friends, here as far as section 4 is concerned, one more section I would like to point out here. The provisions of section 188 of the CRPC are also relevant as far as this extraterritorial operation of IPC is concerned, and that section also provides for the similar provision as it has been so provided in section 4 of the IPC just now we have seen. One more thing I would like to mention here, that while prosecuting the person who has committed an offence outside India, but that Indian person is found in India, the permission, the sanction of the central government will be required, and that will be a condition precedent for the purpose of such prosecution. Now friends, the last head of today's discussion will be floating island. Admiralty jurisdiction, that is also one of the important aspects to be considered as far as section 4 is concerned. A ship on the high seas is supposed to be the floating island belonging to the nation whose flag the ship is flying. And this is the very interesting concept as far as floating island is concerned, and that ship is treated to be a floating island of the country, the flag of which that ship is flying. So friends, here this is in respect of section 4. 3 and 4 provides for extra territorial operation of IPC. And at the last but not least, I would like to mention here V.D. Savarkar's case is equally important for your study purpose, and that is also popularly known as Nashik conspiracy case, and that is reported in 13 Bombay Law Reporter, page 296. Of course, this case seems to be quite old one, but that case is very much important as far as extraterritorial operation of penal code is concerned. So friends, meet you again in the next lecture.